Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. It is finally a nice day outside, so I decided to hop a squat and get a review done, trying to be productive. So I do apologize in advance if you hear background noise or see people walking their dogs in the back or some kids running around in the back. So that's just a part of being outside. So you might have some distractions in the background. But let's go ahead and get into this book review. The book is called Air Raid Book Club by Annie Lyons. And I do not have the physical copy of the book, but I will attach um, a picture of what that looks like to this video for you. So let's just get right on into it. I decided to pick this book up because of the title, and I thought this may be interesting. The story is set in London during the era of Hitler. Yeah, you heard that right. The era of Hitler. The main character of this story is a woman named Gertie. She and her husband Harry have a love for literature and opened a bookstore called Bingham Books. Gertie and Harry had a good life together, no children, but had the love of each other, family, and friends. And this story, Gertie finds herself at the crossroads after the loss of Harry. Gertie has tried to live on her own, but the bookstore and community is saturated with memories of Harry and their life together, which sometimes is a bit much for Gertie to handle. Gertie wants to find purpose in this next phase of her life. The bookstore no longer gives her the zeal that it once did. She is contemplating giving up the bookstore when her life takes some interesting turns. Gertie believes she can find purpose and be of service if fostering a German child trying to escape what was to come. Heidi is the German foster that arrives to live with Gertie. She is headstrong, smart, and a teenager. Gertie has never taken on a parental role before, so there are some adjustments for sure. Hetty is away from her family in a strange place, and not everyone is welcoming. Hetty has to adjust to her new reality and find a way to live while longing to be reconnected with her family. Hetty is a great storyteller, and when she isn't at school, out socializing, or at the bookstore, she is writing. Now, let me introduce you to some of the other characters that bring this story to life. There is Betty, and Betty has been a bookstore employee for years. Betty's life took a turn when her beau was killed in the line of duty. Now, her grief propelled her into a position with the ARP, Air Raid Precautions Unit. Betty is living a life that she hadn't originally envisioned for herself. Then there is Miss Snip, who worked at the local library and then became a highly valued and often feared employee at Bingham Bookstore. Miss Snip knows her stuff when it comes to literature. Harry knew she was the best at what she does, was wise to poach her from the library where she used to work. Despite Miss Snip's abruptness and sometimes rudeness, everyone knows she is an asset to the business. Then we get to meet Charles, who is Gertie and Harry's longtime friend. Charles has been with Gertie throughout the years, being wise counsel, a friend, a confidant, and Charles is single. never married, but has held onto a lost love all these years. Charles has many connections and has been to war, but he continues to serve in various capacities with the military and community organizations. Charles was involved in the Germany exchange program that got Hetty um, and many other children to London before the war became full blown. There is also Marjorie, who is a widow. Marjorie is a pillar of the community, and we see her contributions to the community and how she navigates uh, getting back into dating while the world is tilted on its axis during this wartime. So everybody is, you know, high stress, trying to figure out how to navigate this wartime. And oh, Miss Marjorie decides to get her groove back. Then we have Sam, and he is Betty's brother who is fighting in the war and is smitten with Hetty. He has to go off to war, but before he does that, he meets Hetty, and they have had, some outings. So will their love pass the test of time and war? Well, you'll have to read the book to find out. Now, last but not least, we have Billy and his mother, Elizabeth. Billy is a young child full of hope, imagination, love, and energy. Billy definitely gives a lightness to this story. Um, Billy loves a good story and is serious about his book club involvement. And his mother, Elizabeth, is an artist that has an opportunity to display her talent. Now, you may be asking already, where does the book club come in? Okay, well, let me tell you how come. So, when Harry and Gertie established the bookstore, they also created a book club. The book club was pretty popular and had a good following and attendance. However, once Harry passed, the book club kind of dwindled. Harry had a knack for being able to suggest the right book for a customer and a way of knowing what book brought about, great discussion. So Harry and Gertie made a great team facilitating the book club, even bringing authors to speak. Even back then, could you imagine having an author back then during that time show up at your book club? That would be, I mean, it's awesome now, but it would have been like absolutely wonderful back then. But Gertie's heart wasn't in it without Harry. However, Betty and Hetty attempted to resurrect the book club during this high stressed time period. It began with a few attendees. However, when the air raids began and the community had to seek shelter, these moments brought the book club alive again. More people took to reading and discussing literature during the times that they were isolated in the shelters. The reading took their minds off what was really happening around them. It kind of brought them closer together. The book club was revived. The title was definitely woven into the fabric of this story. Literature and the book club were the intricate thread that brought the story and everyone together. Although there is a good deal about what is happening in the world during this time period, the author keeps the story on a lighter spectrum of things. The author conveys the gravity of situations and the time period events, but doesn't make the story overly heavy. This could have gone in a different direction for sure, by just the characters' emotions and what they were going through with the war casualties, fearing for their lives, loss of loved ones, and just the upheaval of their world. Those things were touched on, but I'm glad the author focused on finding the joy and purpose in the midst of chaos. This story showed if you are determined enough and willing to do the work, there is more than one way to accomplish your goal. It showed people's love for reading and how it can bring joy, inclusion, safety, and community with one another. I loved how the author displayed that a book club can be a safe space to take your mind off your troubles, allowing literature to transport you into another time, space, and place. It also educates you and brings about connection to things, people, and places and events in a way you experience through reading the book. It also brings about a different perspective that can be shared and evaluated. There are a few warnings to give about the book other than the era in which it was written. Obviously, like I said, it was in the Hitler era. So that in itself could be a little bit jarring. There is mention of death in minor detail, but it's still a good enough description to let you know what happened. There is a discrimination depicted, and again, on par with the era. But that's all that I could really point out as something that could um, make you pause. Okay. So this book is listed under fiction, World War II, and historical fiction. There are no discussion questions provided in the book. However, some topics to converse about can be um, what does being a part of a book club mean to you? Are you a part of a book club? Why or why not? What does reading literature do for you? What are your thoughts on how Gertie handled having Hetty come to her home? What would you have done the same or different? Now, one thing I really thought of is I would have learned a little bit about the guests' culture, like what they eat and some of the customs that they have before the person arrived. I think that probably was one of Gertie's hangups is that she didn't do her research. You have access to a bookstore, but she did not do her research at all. Um, Another topic of discussion would be if you were Hetty's parents, would you send your child off to safety with a stranger if it meant you might never see them again? Could you do that as a parent? What would you have done to assist Hetty in dealing with those moments of despair about her family and not knowing what was happening to them? And then you could kind of discuss, little sidebars about each character and what they had going on in their lives, um, especially the dating. You know, would you be still dating at that age? And would you even be concerned about that with all that was happening during this book? Another thing that you could discuss, what leads one into signing up to be in the military, knowing there's a possibility you're signing up to die or signing up to fight a war that you may or may not even believe in. What are some programs that bring those fighting in the war and or overseas keeping the peace? A reminder of home, hope, or comfort. This community really rallied during this hard time in this era. And so, do you think war brings about division or unity? That the enemy of my enemy is a friend mentality, or anyone not for me is against me perspective, or does humanity and common good prevail? Does tumultuous times bring about the idea of live for today outlook, which prompts those to like shoot their shot in the love department. Like, you know what? I don't know if I'm gonna be here next week. Let me go ahead and tell so and so and so how I feel. Does it mend broken relationships or foster new alliances? Well, these are just a few questions to get the conversation going. I'm sure once you read the book, you could take it one or two ways. You can stay on the lighter side of things, or you can take it real deep. But that is up to you and your discussion. So, this story is slow moving. However, it is artfully woven. I enjoy the characters. The storyline gave for some good food for thought about life and all of its complexities. I think author kept things lighter instead of going on the heavier side, which I personally appreciated, and that is why I gave this book an 8 out of 10. So if you haven't read the book, go get it. Tell me what your thoughts are. If you have read the book, comment what you think as well. So I just want to say, go ahead and click that like, subscribe, and share button. I would appreciate it so much. I do see that the subscriptions are slowly creeping up. And so I do truly appreciate all of those that have stuck around and all those newcomers. Okay. And all of the newcomers, welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope that you are enjoying the content and have found some books to put on your to be read list. So that is it for this round. As always, until next time, keep turning the pages, my book lovers.